Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Corner. It is time once again for Andy's HVAC Tech Tips of the Day. Today is Tech Tip number 16, I think, if you're counting along as we go. The tip is a very short, sweet, and to the point one. Nothing fancy about this one at all. But I wanted to talk about something that's very important and something that I preach constantly because there's a lot of different things that we have to do this kind of work. We have to be able to have a little bit of mechanical ability. We have to have training. We have to have just some of the basic things to be able to go out and work on these mechanical devices that we work on. But one of the biggest things that I think we have to have, or any tech has to have, that I think is forgotten oh too often, is common sense. Everybody is always looking for the complicated, out of reach kind of diagnostic, when a lot of times it's just common sense kind of things. Common sense is one of those things in our society that I think is not quite so common anymore, and that frustrates me on a lot of days. And that's not just with, being a service tech or anything like that. That is just the world in general. There's all kinds of messed up things out there that we see that, if people used a little bit of common sense, I think we could have been a lot better off. So, common sense is some of those things where, if we're looking for a problem with a system, a lot of times it may be simple, basic, just a little bitty thing. Little bitty things can turn into big things. Or some little bitty thing like a wire. A little bitty wire can make a unit not work. Imagine that. A big old air conditioner sitting at a house, and, a little bitty wire like this is what's making it not work. Sometimes it's the little things, but everybody wants to find that big, complicated, sophisticated kind of diagnostic, and a lot of times that's not necessary. A lot of times, if we just use a little bit of common sense, open our eyes, look at things before you start pulling wires out, think about what things are before you go and just pull everything apart and do all kinds of work that you don't need to do. Look for the simple things. Don't say, oh, well, I bet this is wired wrong, and pull every wire in there out and try to rewire it when, well, hell, maybe it wasn't even a wiring issue. It's common sense kind of things. I always use this example of this little wire. About lost it. I always use the example of this little wire. And, a piece of wire is a pretty simple thing, you would think, right? But, I see so many times that people have problems with this little bitty wire. If you look at this wire and say this is hooked up in a system, say one end's in the house and one end's outside at the air conditioner. If you got a piece of wire, long straight piece of wire, if you got power on this end, but you don't have power on this end, what do you think's wrong with it? Obviously there's something wrong with the wire. Its purpose is to pass power from one end to the other. If you got power here and you don't have it here, there's something wrong in between. That's just, to me, it's just common sense. But I do also understand that, everybody looks at things differently. I kind of poke fun at that wire thing. But, that's one of those things that I hear about pretty frequently. If you got power at one end, but you don't have it at the other, there's something wrong in the middle. If there's nothing in the middle other than a wire, obviously it's the wire. It's just, the basics kind of thing. And like I said, after you do this for a while and you've got several years and you start getting cocky, and like me, and, you see all these different things. You look at it and it's like, well, just common sense would have fixed that, but not everybody sees that. And I understand that common sense sometimes with what we work with, sometimes comes with experience and seeing it and doing it over and over again, for years to come kind of thing. So I understand that. But, in our industry, I think common sense would go a very, very long ways. So, if you are thinking about getting into the industry, or if you're in the industry already and maybe you're having problems, maybe you're not having problems, maybe you've got all kinds of common sense, and that is great for you because there is, maybe spread that around a little bit, because there's a lot more common sense needed in this world, I think. But, sometimes, problems don't have to be huge, major, complicated things. Sometimes they really are that simple. So, like I said, look at things before you start pulling everything around. Look at things and listen to what the client's saying. The client may, give you a brief story about what's going on. I mean, some of them don't, but a lot of them do. Listen to what they're saying, and then maybe you can pinpoint some of these things before you put yourself through all kinds of extra work that you didn't need to do. A lot of times I see service calls that, techs have done that, they've been there for a good long while, and maybe just some of those common sense, look at what you're doing, slow down, pay attention, listen, and just give everything just a basic look over. A lot of times those service calls could have been shortened up quite a bit. So don't be hard on yourself. Trying to find that complicated problem, sometimes they really are that simple. So just look at everything, use basic common sense, because that is definitely needed in our industry and in the world. So any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe as much as possible. Thank you, and God bless.